Welcome to Creepy Joe's Horror Show! With special guest, Slip Rick the Skeleton.
It's not my fault the babes like me, man.
Also, Flo!
Perverts.
And don't forget about your legendary loser host himself, Creepy Joe!
Welcome to Creepy Joe's Horror Show. Tonight we have Mortuary from 1983.
Mortuary from 1983 is about a hooded figure that stalks a group of college kids. Is it part of a group of seances that the owner of a local mortuary participates in with a group of women?
Mortuary from 1983. This movie was alright, I guess. It was a little bit more on the serious side. It wasn't, stupid, I guess. I mean, because it's an 80s horror movie, it has that level of stupidity to it.
What happened? You look like shit.
It's a long story.
It wasn't the most well done movie here, guys, but it was all right, and it had some interesting characters in it. So, start with the director, Howard Avedis or Avedis, but he had a couple other horror movies out there and some other movies, but nothing that I felt like I needed to, show you guys because they're just, trust me. And then we have starring Bill Paxton, who, I don't know if you guys remember, but like, bam, we're gonna have some movies going on up here because Bill Paxton is the man. I really like Bill Paxton as an actor.
Hey, pretty girl like her had to die so young.
Well, Bill Paxton plays Paul, who's he's the mortician's son. He's also a mortician. And he's like really weird. His character's really bizarre in this. And he's not really like the star of the movie or anything, but we'll get to him later. But yeah, we have Christopher George playing Hank, who's the mortician. He plays Bill Paxton's Paul's dad in the movie, and this is his last film. And if you remember Christopher George from last night's movie, he was in that as well, and I thought that was his last film, but it wasn't. So we have Mary Beth McDonough, I hope I'm saying that right, playing Christy, and she's pretty much the main character.
Christy, I don't want to go through this with you again. The sheriff investigated.
Then you have her mother in the movie, Linda Day George, who's in real life Christopher George's wife, her husband and wife, and she plays Eve, who is, Christy's mom in the movie. And then David Wallace is Greg. And David Wallace is pretty much like the other main character, if that makes sense. Him and Christy are, boyfriend and girlfriend. They both pretty much star in the movie. But the movie starts out with Christy not really witnessing her dad. Like, she doesn't see who did it, but she knows that her dad was murdered at poolside. And people were trying, everyone said that it was an accident, he drowned it or whatever, but she knew that it was a homicide. And she's frustrated with her mom because, Eve doesn't believe that it was a homicide. She thinks it was an accident. She's already moving on, with another relationship. And
go. You'll be late for your date.
they kind of are at each other's throat a bit with it. By the way, I apologize for the rain. Almost every episode, it's been raining. It's crazy if it's not, actually. So I have to talk extra loud because it's hard enough to hear me, but with the rain, that's a whole other story. So that's how the movie starts out, with the dad being murdered, and you get to see that he's murdered by some cloaked figure, but no one else does. And then Greg and his other buddy, Josh, who's only in the movie for a short period of time. There's no updated pictures of him, so I'll just show a movie picture of him. So Greg and Josh go to this warehouse because Josh works for the mortician, Hank, Christopher George. This is going to be really confusing, but the mortician, Christopher George, owns this warehouse. He owns a mortuary. And Josh, who I only have a movie picture of, worked for Hank, and he wanted to steal tires out of this warehouse. So Greg and him go to this warehouse, and he's going to steal tires. They end up witnessing a satanic seance. I don't even know if it was a seance, but it was some kind of, they think it's Satanism, whatever.
Get ready for a seance. A seance? Yep.
And there's all these cloaked figures, so that's like kind of like a, you know that one of those cloaked figures were involved in the death that ties together of the man at the beginning. So, if that makes any kind of sense. So, Josh ends up getting murdered. So Greg, and then one of the members of the cult steal Josh's van, or Greg's van. So Greg's like on foot, he ends up, so anyway, he's looking everywhere for his van. The sheriff eventually ends up with the van, and he gets his van back, and they're trying to accuse him of, you know, wrongdoing, and he's trying to tell the sheriff, like, no, I'm telling you that Hank's a, you know, satanic priest, and he's in there doing weird shit.
If you and Josh are pulling another one of your damn stunts on me, I'm gonna have both of your asses. Now you get...
Oh, Greg spends a good amount of time trying to find his van. He finally finds it. Sheriff doesn't believe him, and they start, him and Greg and Christy, her boyfriend and girlfriend, they start, you know, Greg noticed that her mother was one of the members of the seance.
One of them.
Who?
Your mother.
And she tells Christy, and you come to find out, I mean, a lot happens, a lot of people get murdered, and, you know, but you come to find out that, I don't know if I want to skip to the end yet. I'm trying to think of some other notable things that happen in this movie other than, you know, the murders and some long drawn out creep fest, hooded figure spying on Mary all the time. By the way, Christy, not Mary Beth, but Christy, who is her character, she sleepwalks. So she's constantly sleepwalking around her property, and this hooded figure, aka Bill Paxton, I'll just tell you, it's Paul, it's the mortician's son that's the killer, and he's stalking everybody. But he plays a real weirdo in this movie, and what I mean by that is, like, they even show a scene where he's like goes and gives the one girl flowers in the cemetery, and he's like, here's the flowers, and then like he like skips away like a total, I don't know, it's almost like he's like a childlike.
He's got a crush on you.
Are you jealous?
Or something, and his dad's always, you know, Hank's always yelling at him and like basically verbally abusing him.
What are you waiting for? Get out of here before I bomb you.
And so you almost feel kind of bad for him, and he's you know, Paul is nice to Greg, you know, like they're kind of like not really friends, but they're nice to each other.
Why do you do it? My father wants me to. And
so I kind of knew right off the bat, from the first time they introduced Paul, Bill Paxton's character, I knew that he was going to be the killer. He's freaking weird, and he works at the mortuary, and he has access to certain things. He's tied into the building. I knew, and it's pretty obvious, but you know, if you don't know, I apologize for ruining the movie, but it's still worth a watch. It gets real bizarre at the end, you know. Christy ends up, like he ends up, like he's obsessed with Christy, so that he's always stalking her and everything. And he finally gets a hold of her, and he wants to turn her into you know, basically he wants to like embalm her and just have her dead body around to hang out with. And you find out that all the people he murdered throughout the movie, clear back to the father, they're all, you know, hanging out in this room just like dead, like. You know, it's like a party that he set up in the attic of the mortuary, I believe. Or maybe it's, no, I think it's in the warehouse. I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. But it's like a party, and he decorates, he has music, there's streamers, and it's like an event at the end. He just, you know, is hanging out with all the dead people. And then, of course, hero Greg comes in and stops him. And then that's basically the movie. It just is what it is. There's nothing really notable that sticks out to me where I'm like, man, that's burnt into my brain for the rest of my life. I think that it's definitely, it's crazy that, you know, there were some like good actors in this, like Bill Paxton and Christopher George alone are pretty big actors, and then Linda Day George also was in a lot of movies, you know, in the 80s and 90s. But I'm gonna rate this. I'll rate this another 3 out of 5. It's funny how these are all racking up. Well, I had a couple 4s in there, but yeah, this was pretty good. I mean, I would definitely watch it again. It's not like I didn't like it in any way. It just didn't stand out to me in any way either, if that makes sense. But it's Halloween time. It's cool to watch. It's a fun movie, you know, if you want to get a laugh, or, you know, because that's about all you're going to get out of it. You're not going to be scared.
From my side transfer.
Yeah, in the back seat.
Get out of here!
3 out of 5, Mortuary 1983. For those of you that don't watch these reviews daily, or this is your first video, every single one of these movies that I'm reviewing or giving my opinion on, I wouldn't really call this an in-depth review, because it's very much off the top of my head, one take, from what I can remember the night before, what imprint it had on me to be able to share with you guys. And that's what this is. It is the shittiest, laziest way of reviewing a movie. And because this, I just want it to be honest as possible. And putting a video out every single day, I don't really have time to spend 10 hours a day researching every single aspect of these movies. But if I thought they were cool, I'm going to share them with you, and you have free access on Tubi. And as long as you have internet, you can download the Tubi app on your phone, on your laptop, whatever, and you can watch every single one of these in the month of October. I don't know how much longer they'll be on there after that, but it's overwhelming how many horror movies are on Tubi. I could do this for years. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's damn near 1,000 horror movies alone, not movies in general, but just horror section. And I'm taking the time to put out one every single night in the month of October, 31 nights, and I wanted it to be free for everyone to see, because, you know, I hate watching, there's nothing I hate more than watching a horror review. The movie looks really good, and then you have to spend like $30 to see it, especially if you go to a theater these days. It's ridiculous. But I don't really care. I prefer these older movies, and this is like what I like. So I prefer to share what I like than, you know, try to be up to date with every movie that comes out, you know, every day. Because who gives a shit, right? I mean, if the movie's good, if it's cool, it's cool. And these movies are all badass. And without these movies, modern day horror wouldn't be modern day horror. So take a look at these movies. They're worth a watch, and they're all free on Tubi. Enough said. But thanks for hanging out, and hopefully you can hear me over the rain, but stay creepy.